The HTML progress element is something you can start using now on your website to create a progress bar so that you can show if something is running in the background. We're going to take a look at how it works on different web browsers, as well as how to customly style it using CSS. If you don't know who I am, I'm Adrian and I'm from Australia. I do design and development videos, so if you like this kind of content and you want to see more like it, hit like and subscribe, and let's just jump right into it. To define a progress bar in HTML5, we simply use the element called progress. Let's put this in. When we do, we can see that the progress bar is automatically created. It works immediately, and right now it doesn't have any properties defined, but we can see that it has a visual representation. Now this will change depending on what operating system and browser you're on. In this case we're on Chrome, so we've got a Chrome version of a loading bar. But if we were to open up Firefox, we would have a Firefox version, and so on with other browsers as well. After this, we can define some values here and some properties. The first one is max, and this is the maximum value that your loading bar will use. It's a number value, so in this case we can put in 10. The second is a property called value, which is simply the percentage of the progress bar in respect to the maximum value we define. So if we put in 5, it utilizes 50% of the progress bar, which makes sense. So say we don't like the appearance of our progress bar. Maybe it doesn't look visually that interesting. So we can change this by updating the CSS. We can define progress here in our CSS, and the first thing we have to do is get rid of the native appearance. So do this by doing a minus WebKit appearance and set this to none. As soon as we do, we lose the appearance of the styling that's applied default by the browser. If we check our other browsers, we can see that they've also lost that default appearance, and we can now begin styling it. Let's do some really simple styling. We'll do a width of 50%, a height of 15 pixels, and a border of 1 pixel solid gray. To change the background for the loading bar, we're going to have to use a bit more syntax in our CSS. We're going to have to apply WebKit progress bar, and in here we can define the background. In this case I'm going to do a light gray color. This will apply it on most browsers, but to change this green color here is going to be a little bit more difficult because every browser has decided to use different syntax to apply this. To start, let's have a look at the Chrome version, and to define that we use WebKit progress value, and in here let's just define a gray color. And we might make that a little bit darker so that you guys can see it. Now this will work on here, but if we check Firefox and if we check IE, we can see that hasn't been applied. IE isn't that difficult to fix. To do that, we just simply define it here as a color, and if we apply this and save it, it should take effect immediately. Firefox unfortunately has its own syntax for this, and we can apply it. It's Moz progress bar. If we apply this and refresh, we can see it's taken effect. And going back to Chrome, we can see that there is an issue here where it's affecting our look. So we'll paste it down here as a separate value, just so that our Chrome version is working as well. With the basics now done, we can add additional styling to our progress bar. We could do a border radius of maybe 15 pixels and add some nice curves, and we can play around with the values to make sure that everything's updating correctly. Let's create some animation for our progress bar so we can actually see that it's loading something. To do this, we're going to use some JavaScript. We'll create a script tag up here, and we'll run a handler of document.getElementByTagName. And in this case, the tag name is progress. Now this will return an array, so we'll just pick the very first one in this item, and we'll set the value to equal maybe the value that it was previously plus 1. Now we'll want this to run on an interval, so we'll do a set interval of maybe an arrow function of this value every 250 milliseconds. And if the value of the progress bar is equal to 10, we'll reset it to equal 1 again. So let's put all of that in and see what it looks like. Let's refresh, and now we can see that our progress bar is loading. It's going all the way to 100% and then starting from scratch. This should give you a good idea of how progress bars work. Obviously, there's lots of different ways you can utilize them, and sometimes you can just create your own div elements if you want to create some more customized styling. We can see that the same animation happens in Firefox, it happens in Chrome, and even in IE. Well, not exactly, because IE doesn't actually like arrow functions, so we can remove that and resave it, and that should work now. I hope this video gave you a better understanding of how to use the HTML element for the progress bar. There are other ways to use the progress bar, such as just rendering your own using divs or elements and using things like React or JavaScript libraries to create something custom altogether. We might take a look at that in future videos, but for now, hopefully this gave you a better understanding of how to get started with a regular progress bar. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more like it, hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.